Good evening, welcome to the ARL. This is round number 7 of the season, and you join us here in Budapest in Hungary. After Desinio's victory last time around in Bahrain, taking his second win of the season, he closed the gap to the championship leader Zaki. As the title hots up, Red Bull though falling slightly further behind Ferrari. 49 points separating those two teams as we come into the capital of Hungary, or just outside the capital of Hungary in the outskirts, and getting ready to embark on round number 7. We've started short qualifying, as you can see, and Jay-Z has already retired from the session in the McLaren. So a poor start for a couple of drivers. Roberto Santo in the Haas is also out of the session. No lap times just yet in qualifying. A short qualifying followed by a 50% Grand Prix here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Rebas and ASM have set the first lap times. Rebas fastest, 1 minute 16.8. ASM 5 tenths behind him. And then Shadow Moody in third at the moment in the Mercedes. As the lap times start to come in around the final corner, now comes Wizard in the Alfa Romeo. And crosses the line to go fourth with a 1 minute 8.8. As we wait for Jack in the Alfa Tauri, rounding turn 12. Hungarian Grand Prix, a 4.3 kilometre circuit. Very downforce orientated, not a lot of room for error. Bloxham goes fastest in the McLaren, 1 minute 15.8. Up to third goes Jack with a 1 minute 17.0. Super Gabu in the second Alfa Tauri. As up the hill he climbs towards turn 4. Difficult blind apex to get right, but does well there. Now through the long, almost never-ending turn 5 in towards the quick right-left chicane of 6 and 7. Slightly wide through 6, compromises the run through turn 7 ever so slightly, as he brings it now through the middle sector. 16 races in the history of the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's very wide. There goes the Alfa. 35 races, 16 corners, 35 races here in Hungary. And 16 of them, actually, have been won from pole position. The number 16 featuring quite a lot, actually, at the moment. Round then comes Super Gabu. This isn't going to be the tiniest lap, or the quickest. And it's P6. Goes ahead of Shadow, though. And the Red Bull of J goes up to second with a 1 minute 16.4 just behind. Here's Evil Hunter. And a purple middle sector from the racing point. And up the hill now towards the final corner. Really good exit, wasn't it, out of the turn 15. Brings it round the apex of the final turn. Opens up the DRS and across the line to go quickest at a 1 minute 15.2 in the racing point. Who already have a handful of podiums in their Formula 1 history as the Force India team. No podiums, though, interestingly, since the name was changed to Racing Point from Force India. Here comes Rick in the Renault, and across the line for him, and up to second with a 1 minute 15.3. Some really, really competitive lap times coming in here from the, well, the now 18 drivers that we have with us. Laggins through the middle sector in the Williams. If I have just got that pronunciation wrong, I really am sorry. Through turn 11. And now down the hill towards the final couple of corners. Gets it slowed down for the left. It's a good exit once again, just right next to that curb. Straightens up the car now around the final corner. Uses, or doesn't use the curb actually, very nice and tidy, and it's fastest with a 1 minute 15.2 as well. More than tidy, rapid too from the Williams. as once again P1 changes hands in this increasingly exciting qualifying session. Here comes Decinio in the Ferrari. Uses the curb on the entrance into turn 2. Just about gets it rotated round the corner through turn 3 and up towards 4. Slight wheel on the grass on the exit of 3, and really mounting those curbs and using as much track space as he possibly can. Decinio in the Ferrari. Through 6 and 7. Sit on the power. Brings it now through this very tricky middle sector. Bit of understeer going on in the car. And now down the hill into a heavy braking zone. Now in towards turn 15. And again, a good exit. Running the car as wide as he possibly dares. Round the final corner now, and across the line for Decinio, and it's P6, so with a 1 minute 16.1 for him, which is about 9/10, isn't it, off of P1. So yeah, the top 6 all within a second so far in qualifying. Here comes Forza Ferrari, ironically in the Renault, and goes P5, 1 minute 15.5, just 3/10 off of P1, and 4 positions below. That's a really competitive top end of the grid. Here comes Big Ben, and he's invalidated his lap by running just a little too wide, and he'll have to go round again to try and set another lap time. Meanwhile, Ribas in the Mercedes has gone again. It's still showing his fastest lap from much earlier as being the fastest lap of the session at the bottom of your screen, but I can tell you on the column of your left it is Laggins who is fastest so far of them all in the Williams. Oh, and Ribas has hit the inside curb, and that's spun him into the wall, and he'll not be improving just yet on P10. Just got a bit greedy on the inside, tried to turn the car in too early, and he spun it again, and this time, is it session ending? I think it probably is. No, he's managed to keep it going. One mistake has led to another, unfortunately, there for Ribas. Who has found himself, well, in need of a new front wing, a new set of tyres, and also in need of staying on the track if he's even going to make it back round to the pits. Here comes Shadow Moody then, around the final corner in the second Williams. The first Williams out front in P1. The second one up to P10 with a 1 minute 16.5. Pushes the unfortunate Ribas now outside the top 10 into P11. Ex-Wizard has just had his lap invalidated in the Alfa Romeo, so he's going to bring that car back into the pits. Night Shadow, one of the few drivers so far yet to set a lap. One Ferrari's already gone into the top 10 in P7 in Decinio. What about the second one? In towards the final sector he comes. Nice and tidy so far by the looks of it. And also being shown as a purple middle sector. Oh, that's not going to be a purple final sector though. Just slightly takes too much on the exit and runs it ever so slightly out wide. And as a result, that's not going to result in the fastest lap time of the session, I would have thought. But across the line now to go P7. So still goes ahead of his teammate Decinio. But what could have been if not for that little half spin there? That'll be very frustrating indeed. Here comes Super Gabu. Seems like just a minute ago that he was setting one of the quickest lap times. Now down in P16, but the track is evolving. It's getting ever quicker. The lap times are plummeting. Will the Alpha Tauri's lap time plummet as well? As around the final corner he comes, and we get a lovely view from the rear. He'll be looking up front as he goes P7 with a 1 minute 16.0. And certainly has launched him further up the grid. And so all the 19 drivers we have competing in the session at the moment have set lap times. The only two are Roberto Santo and Jazzy, who are both out of the session. There's ASMD in the Red Bull, who has done 2 laps on these soft tyres. So whether there'll be much more change out of them in terms of qualifying pace, I guess we might be about to find out. Six wins, as opposed to the 16 from pole in second place, as ASMD has his lap invalidated, so even if he was going for another flyer, he won't be able to do so now. And interestingly, at a track where it's very, very difficult to overtake, there have still been 13 wins from outside the front row, more than double what there has been from P2 after qualifying. So qualifying certainly is important if you look at the pole position stats, but below that there can be some pretty good racing, and part of that of course is due to Jenson Button's crazy race in 2006 when he took the win, and that was from P14 all the way down in P14, that famous first win, and the crazy eyes that we saw afterwards from him. 2014 was Daniel Ricciardo in the Red Bull, and 2015 probably the best race of that year, actually, when Sebastian Vettel won after Mercedes' dramas from the 2 Red Bulls behind him. And that actually, I believe, was Vettel's first win in Hungary in 2015, I think. Do correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I think it was his first win in Budapest. Bloxham then in the McLaren on a flying lap, currently in P6, and just 6/10 away from pole position. I say just 6/10, quite a lot in Formula 1, but on the Codemasters F1 games actually tends to be fairly easy to make up. I say easy with a lot of caution. There's a reason I am just a commentator. Round the final corner comes Bloxham, opens up the DRS, uses as much curb as he can, and across the line to go P4 with a 1:15.4. Very close to Laggins as Decinio goes quickest at a 1:15.2. Excellent lap from the Ferrari, and there's an Alfa Romeo just spun round as well, which I believe is Wizard, I want to say. I think Wizard in the AlphaTauri, yeah, and now he's sinking into the track. I would love to say I've never seen that before in a Codemasters game. Sadly, I have. Apologies to Rolex. As he gets back onto the circuit and tries, well, I would think he'll try to get back round to the pits, get a fresh set of rubber on, and try and go again for another flying lap, because I'm not sure he'll have an awful lot of grip left in those tyres after the adventures that he's just been on. Joy's had his lap, or her lap, not sure, invalidated. So that'll either be a case of pitting or going back round. It will be a case of pitting for the Haas car. Currently last of the runners, and well, it's a lowly 1:20.3, unfortunately, which certainly can be improved upon. Here's Jay then in the Red Bull. Again, quite a few long and awkward corners to contend with here in Hungary. Evil Hunter has retired for the session. I believe that was probably just a retirement in the garage rather than a retirement on track. As Jaden goes through the right-left chicane. Pretty tidy run through there. And P11 1.2 seconds away from pole position, so really not that much in the grand scheme of things separating the top 11 in this session, which is good to see. It's exciting stuff here in Budapest as Jay up towards the final corner, slight braking in fourth gear, opens it up on the exit. It's a good exit too, and across the line for P9 with a 1:16.0. Not enough just yet not enough to certainly not enough to take pole position. And not quite enough to get ahead of the AlphaTauri of Super Gabu. Very, very tight between those two. Here then comes Lackins. He's just had pole position taken off in by Desinio in the throw. Desinio's in the pits. He won't be improving on his lap time. And so really, it falls to Laggins to try and displace the Ferrari and get himself up onto pole position for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Rick in the Renault is also out there at the moment, so we'll see what he can do. It's a 1 minute 15.3 from him, so he's really not far off himself. And will Desinio be able to hold on to pole position in the closing stages of the session? As Laggins in towards the final sector. And these last two corners so important to get right. Rick's retired from the session, so really it's just the Williams now who can take pole position. Here comes Laggins, opens it up, opens the DRS up to the line, and it's not quicker than Desinio. Desinio will hold on for pole in the Ferrari, as Jack has just crossed the line as well. P12 for him in the AlphaTauri. ASMD has had his lap invalidated, so there'll be no improvement from the Red Bull driver. Joy in the Haas will have just, I believe, finished a flying lap by this point, or unless, once again, Codemasters has let us down and allowed somebody to cross the line after the checkered flag. But with a 1 minute 20.3, not sure if the Haas will be improving on that. And as the drivers start to cross the line, that is going to be that. And Desinio, winner last time out, two-time winner in ARL so far this season, looks to make it a third. And oh, it's a spin for the Haas. So Joy, who was trying to improve on what is at the moment last place of the current runners, has gone off the circuit, spun at the chicane, and well, if it was going to be an improvement on the last lap, it certainly won't be one now. Which gives pole to Ferrari. And last time the Scuderia were on pole in Hungary was 2017, and it was a Sebastian Vettel victory followed by a second place finish for Kimi Raikkonen. So the odds are good in that respect for Desinio. And of course the slightly short run down towards the final corner, the first corner I should say, from the start, will probably present a little bit of an opportunity for him to hold the lead and build on it from the first lap. Lewis Hamilton was, of course, the 16th driver to win from pole here in Budapest for the 2020 Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix. Started on pole for round number 3 of the F1 season, and with a dominant display from wet into dry, sublimely took the victory. And Desinio looks to do the same. He's on pole for the Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix. Laggins in the Williams had pole position taken off him. Look at that. Look how close the gap is. 9 thousandths of a second separating the top two. Evil Hunter in third in the Racing Point. It's Rick fourth in the Renault. Bloxham in fifth for McLaren. Connor sixth for Alfa Romeo. Forza Ferrari in seventh. Super Gabu eighth. Jay Hartnell ninth. Night Shadow in 10th. Liverpool Fan in 11th. Jack in 12th. Shadow Moody 13th. Big Ben 14th. Arbiz 15th. ASMD 16th. Wizard 17th. Joy 18th. Roberto Santo 19th. And Jazzy down in 20th. Knocked out of qualifying one. Q2 then underway. And there I was talking about pole position a second ago. That was only Q1 that I was talking about. Do excuse me. What can I say? Got excited anyway. Q1 is done. Decino, though, was quickest. Certainly a tight session between the top 10. The gaps were fairly small, particularly amongst the top 3. So Q2 will be interesting. Tyre strategies will slightly play a factor with of course the track not really lending itself superbly to overtaking. It's not so easy to get moves done around this Budapest circuit. So going on the medium tyres is probably a bit of a gamble, but we'll see. Here then to start the lap comes Jack in the Alpha Tauri. Down towards turn 1, Jack made it into the second qualifying session with a fairly consistent display. It will be a little bit more difficult by the looks of it from the Q1 times to make it into Q2. He has elected to go onto the soft compound tyre. At the moment, Super Gabu, Decino, Rick and Connor have gone for the mediums. Connor was nicely nestled in the top 10 in Q1, so clearly feels confident enough to go to the medium tyres and look for some strategical advantage going into the Grand Prix, which we're not too sure if it will be a 1-stop, a 2-stop. Could be a wet race, you never know. You never quite know what's going to happen in F1 or in league racing for that matter. Jack then around the final couple of corners, and this will be the second lap time of Q2 because Decino's just set the first one with a 1 minute 16.6. Here comes Jack, and across the line for the Alpha Tauri to go second, 1 minute 17.6 from him. So on the soft tyres, a second slower than the medium tyre run by Decino. So a really impressive lap by the Ferrari. Even more impressive is Connor's lap in the Alfa Romeo. Really good lap from him, 1 minute 16.3 as Jay slots into third in the Red Bull. Here comes Super Gabu. All eyes on him on the medium tyres as well. Night Shadow goes P1, 1 minute 15.6. And it's fifth for Super Gabu ahead of Jack, who's on those soft tyres. Rebas has also gone for the medium compound tyre, despite the timing screen suggesting he's on the softs, which is interesting and unfortunately not too surprising. Rebas across the line in the Mercedes, and it's P7, so last of the current runners, and immediately put down to 8th place as well. Here comes Evil Hunter, who has just started a lap. I think he might have actually had his last lap invalidated. And as has M. Bloxham. Laggins, P2 in qualifying 1, has gone for the soft compound tyre in Q2. And expect a very good lap time indeed here from the Williams. Big Ben and Rick on out laps as well. As we also wait for Forza Ferrari Liverpool fan to cross the line to set a lap in the second qualifying session. 10 minutes to go. Around the final corner comes Laggins. It's a good run as well from the Williams, and it's P1. 1 minute 14.9 from him. 7/10 of a second clear of his nearest challenger, Night Shadow. Great lap from the Williams driver. Evil Hunter's got a bit of traffic from the Williams, which will not be doing him any favours. I believe it's Shadow Moody. That's right in front of him. And yeah, not really being very conducive to a quick lap time. But Evil Hunter rounds the final corner. And, well, still third despite the obvious intervention from the Williams in front of him. does well to set a decent lap time. Here comes Big Ben in the other racing point. Will he be able to improve on what his teammate has done as he heads in towards the final section of the circuit, slightly wide of the apex? At turn 13. And in towards 15 he comes. The long left, which is followed by the long right. Again, just got to be so patient with the throttle. Uses the exit curb. It's a good run out of the final corner, and it's P11. Not quite enough at the moment to get out of the second qualifying session. Just over a tenth behind Ribas in the Mercedes. Here comes Rick, who's had his lap invalidated in the Renault, which will just put a bit more pressure on him on the mediums to perform and try and go and set another lap time. The other Renault is just coming through turn 1 now. Forza Ferrari, who will try and well, not have his lap invalidated, go for a clean lap. Renault, of course, who got a 4th place finish with Daniel Ricciardo this afternoon, and Forza Ferrari, well, unfortunately, not such a good race for them. Purple first sector then from Rick on the medium tyres. Through turn 5 he goes. And now brings it in towards this final sector again. Again, a few drivers just struggling to get the car turned in for that quick right-hander. At turn 13. Now in towards 15. It's a good, tidy exit. And around the final corner in the Renault. And will this be enough to get into the top 10? Yes, it will. P4, 1 minute 16.0. So some competitive medium laps being set at the moment. Liverpool fan in the Mercedes is just coming around the final couple of corners as well. The time to beat to get into Q3, 1 minute 17.5. Liverpool fan, oh, beats it brilliantly, 1 minute 16.0. Moves ahead of Forza Ferrari into 4th place. As we wait Bloxham. Wait for Bloxham to come round. There we go. Got it out eventually. And now in towards these final 3 corners of the lap for the McLaren driver. Just himself yet to set a lap. Rick has done a 1 minute 17.8 in the Renault, which of course will not be enough for him to get into the 3rd and final qualifying session. Bloxham goes up to 2nd place with a 1 minute 15.3. And that pushes Shadow into the bottom 5. So Shadow will need a good lap. Gabu slightly at threat here of being put out of Q2. So it's as you would expect with the soft runners being quickest. Evil Hunter the quickest medium runner. Desinho down in 9th place actually. On the mediums, so I would just wonder if he'll try and step away from the mediums and go to the softs instead. But Laggins it is who holds the quickest lap time in the 2nd qualifying session. 4/10 clear of Bloxham. And in the drop zone at the moment, Jay's now in the drop zone. Desinho now in trouble in 10th. Shadow in 12th. Big Ben 13th. Jack in 14th in the Alpha Tauri. And Ribas in the Mercedes all the way down in P15. Knowing that he'll need a much better lap time really. Currently on the 1 minute 17.7. So needs to find just over a second more to get that Mercedes out of Q2 and into the 3rd qualifying session. Will we see some monster lap times from the bottom 5? Will we see an upset? Potentially Connor and Desinho, both on the mediums, could get sent out of this session. And Desinho has responded to that, and he has gone on to the soft tyres. He's not going to take the gamble of the mediums because, of course, he's languishing in P10 and potentially in danger of being knocked out at the Q2 stage. And for a driver that's quickest in Q1, Certainly would be an upset indeed, especially having just won the last Grand Prix. And slightly wide through the final sector. You can just see him fighting the back end. Rick has retired from the session, as has Bloxham. So those two clearly pretty content with their lap times. As round the final corner comes Desinio, and up to the line for the Ferrari to go third with a 1 minute 15.4. And that will probably just about be enough to see him into the third and final qualifying session in the pole position shootout between the top 10. Here comes Connor, who's now been pushed by Desinio into that danger zone, or towards that danger zone in P10. Connor across the line and goes second, 1 minute 15.0. Moves ahead of Bloxham and just behind Laggins, who still holds P1 in Q2. Rivas has gone up to P12 in the Mercedes, 1 minute 17.0. Not enough at the moment to get himself out of Q2 and into Q3. Jack in the AlphaTauri will need to go out again. He knows that he needs a much better lap to progress. Jay in need of 1-2. Forza Ferrari's gone out again. Both seeking to improve on their lap times. Jay because he wants to get into Q3, and Forza because he wants to survive, currently in P10. And Rivas goes up to P11. 1 minute 16.5 now from him, but still not enough to creep into the top 10. Jay crosses the line to start a lap then in the Red Bull. As he gets it slowed down for turn 1. A little bit of a scruffy exit, actually, which won't have helped him too much. And despite the fact that it is a downforce circuit, Red Bull really actually haven't had an awful lot of luck at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Just the 2 wins for them since they started their journey in Formula 1. And both of them actually coming from Australian drivers. Mark Webber in 2010, Daniel Ricciardo in 2014. Aside from that, they've not actually had an awful lot of luck here in Budapest. And at the moment, they've got one Red Bull. Looks as though he's struggling to make it out of Q2. But will this lap be enough? Jay up to the line. And no, it's not enough at the moment to improve and move above 12th place. Here's Forza Ferrari looking to secure his safety into the third and final qualifying session. Jack's running that lap in the AlphaTauri. Big Ben's out there as well in the Racing Point. Looking to spring an upset and move up into the top 10. Here comes Forza Ferrari. Is this going to be enough to move further to safety? Yes, it is. P5. 1 minute 15.6. That now puts Liverpool fan in trouble. And he's in the pits. And so if Jay or Big Ben can improve, or Jack for that matter, and Big Ben rather will not be improving. He's just invalidated his lap time, but he will be able to go round again to set another lap. Jack, meanwhile, in the AlphaTauri, just coming through turn 10 now. And is Liverpool fan gonna be knocked out of Q2? He'll be watching intensely as the rest of the drivers come now through to finish their laps, but Jack won't be finishing that lap in any sort of quick style because he spun at turn 4. And Big Ben now in the Racing Point. Looks as though he's the only one really able to stop Liverpool fan as Jay crosses the line. Can't improve again. 1 minute 16.6 will not be enough. 0.6 of a second behind Liverpool fan. And Big Ben looks as though he's backed out, actually, of this lap in the Racing Point car. And so that Mercedes will just about be safe in the end. So yeah, Big Ben has slowed it all down, so it's going to be himself out of Q2, Jack as well, and it looks as though they're going to be joined by Shadow Moody, Jay and Rebus. But, an exciting end to the session. Certainly looked as though one or two drivers had more pace up their sleeve, and unfortunately for Jack, he just wasn't able to show it, spinning out on his final qualifying run. And in the 35 races that we've had in Hungary, it's only actually ever been 8 constructors winning the Grand Prix. Ferrari have won here, McLaren have won, Mercedes, as mentioned, Red Bull, Honda with that win in 2006 with Jenson Button, Renault, Williams, Benetton in that list. McLaren's last win here was in 2012 with Lewis Hamilton, one of the 7 wins that he's taken at the Budapest circuit, I should say. Budapest race circuit. Although, despite the drought of wins in Hungary, McLaren are still the most successful team. Hungary, 11 wins for them. Mercedes, of course, will be looking to catch up in that respect. They've won in 2016, 2017, 18 and 19. And those last 4 wins have taken them closer, but it's the... well, it's 4 out of the 5 wins that they've taken. Of course, Hamilton also won in 2013, the last year of the hybrid engines. But it's Rebus who is knocked out, just behind, or 6/10 rather behind, Liverpool fan Jay Hartnell, also out in the Red Bull. Shadow Moody 11th, Big Ben 14th in the Racing Point, and Jack joins those 4 in heading out of the second qualifying session and not making it in to Q3. It was Evil Hunter who took the fastest lap, and Rick in the Renault on the medium tyres, he's just pointed out to me that and he's absolutely right, the only driver in the top 10 making it into Q3 that's on the medium tyres for the Grand Prix. So certainly someone who, if he can get that Renault up towards the top of the grid in Q3, will definitely be a contender for the race win. Bearing in mind, of course, that he'll have a slightly different strategy to those around him. But here we go. Q3. And this is where it all comes together. This is the one that matters for the 10 drivers left in qualifying here at the Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix. The lap record during the race, 1 minute 17.1 for Max Verstappen. That was last year, actually, in the Red Bull. The average speed is it's about just over 200 kilometers per hour at this circuit. So it's a very quick track, but corners everywhere. There's no space to breathe and just gather your thoughts. It's one corner after the other, which is why this track is such a good challenge for the drivers, but not such a great spectacle for the fans to enjoy. Except, of course, when we get a drop of rain or two. And that tends to liven up the Grand Prix. Not just at this circuit. Night Shadow then is headed out in the Ferrari. And he joins Bloxham and Laggins out on track at the moment. Laggins, of course, one of the favourites for pole, along with Desinio. Those two competed with each other very well in qualifying 1. And we will find out if it'll be those two challenging for pole position. It's going to be Laggins, though, who will set the first lap time of the session. Round the final corner he comes. And with DRS open, runs the car down towards turn 1. As he gets on the brakes, slight lock up on the right front. On the exit, opens up the DRS again. Pretty tidy exit, just has to pick up the back end ever so slightly. Gets it in a straight line towards turn 2. Another little lock up this time on the left front. Opens it up through 3, flat out through the right-hander. Climbs up the hill towards the blind apex of turn 4. Gets it braked and turned in very well in 7th gear. It's a very good run. And up the hill again towards the right-left chicane. Clips the first apex, then the second one. Riding the curbs, and it's a brilliant run for the Williams through there. And again, just sliding through, and the back end screaming at him. But Laggins doing well to keep it all under control and keep the car on the road. In towards these final few corners. Another little lock up on the right front. Doesn't really matter too much. It hasn't cost him too much time. And now up towards the final couple of corners. Good exit. Up the hill to the final turn. Just stays nice and patient, and across the line for Laggins. And the first lap is a 1 minute 14.9 from the Williams driver. Here comes Night Shadow in the Ferrari, slightly wide at the final turn, and it's a 1 minute 15.6 from him to go second fastest. Of course, only the two drivers at the moment setting lap times just now. Here comes Bloxham in the McLaren, and across the line for him, and it's third, just behind Night Shadow. 1 minute 15.8 for the McLaren driver. Here comes Connor, although Connor's had his lap invalidated, so he will not be able to set it up just this time. He'll have to come back around and try and go again. Now Super Gabu in the AlphaTauri. And again round the final corner. And again with DRS open, and it's P4, 1 minute 15.9, just behind Bloxham. Desinio in the Ferrari goes quickest, 1 minute 14.7, displaces Laggins by a couple of tenths of a second. And once again, the battle is on between those two. Forza Ferrari's had his lap invalidated as well. And Liverpool fan and Rick are both in the pits, as is Evil Hunter. So it would look as though those two are just going for the one run in qualifying. But Connor's going round again in the Alfa Romeo to try and set another lap, although has he backed off it, I wonder? Looks as though he has. That's a bit of a slow-moving Alfa Romeo. That down the straight, so looks as though he'll be coming back in for another 10 tyres, and just the one lap time from him as well. Which means that after just over 3 minutes here in Q3, just the 5 drivers setting a lap time. Desinio is quickest at the moment, ahead of Laggins on the front row. Night Shadow in third place, Bloxham fourth, and Super Gabu in fifth in the AlphaTauri. With Evil Hunter, Forza Ferrari, Liverpool fan, Rick and Connor all yet to set lap times, although Liverpool fan has just set off on an outlap right now to see if he can get in amongst the top 4, potentially the top 3, but Desinio and Laggins look almost untouchable out front so far in qualifying. Very, very quick, those two, and well, certainly is a reason that it is those two competing for the World Championship at the moment. Desinio, he's second in the World Championship after the 2 wins that he's taken. Liverpool fan then across the line and starts his lap down towards turn 1. Gets it slowed down for the apex. And just in front of him is the Alfa Romeo of Connor, who's just started an outlap. And since 2010, Mercedes Power has taken win Hungary 7 times. Jenson Button in 2011 for McLaren, Lewis Hamilton in 2012 for the same team. Then, of course, as mentioned, Lewis Hamilton in 2013. And Hamilton every year since 2016 as well. Mercedes, the dominant force in Formula 1. And as I say, in the last 10 years, the dominant force here in Hungary as well. Although Renault Power and Ferrari Power have had just a little something to say about that. As Liverpool fan brings it in towards these final couple of corners. Now in towards the final turn. Nice late apex. Really good run through there for the Mercedes. And Liverpool fan goes 4th. 1 minute 15.8. Moves himself ahead of Bloxham. So an impressive lap from him. Here comes Rick in the Renault. As mentioned, the only driver in the top 10 shootout to set his Q2 lap on the medium compound tyres. So a good lap here. Certainly puts him in contention for the Grand Prix itself. It's a nice tidy run once again through the final couple of turns. And now around the final corner. And with DRS open, Rick goes P2. 1 minute 14.9. A couple of tenths behind Decinio, but still that Ferrari is unmoved out front. Here comes Connor in the Alfa Romeo as the Mercedes of Liverpool fan just moves out of the way. Connor, who's had 1 lap invalidated, as Laggins goes fastest with a 1 minute 14.6 in the Williams. Displaces Decinio. Moves Rick outside of the front row. Connor now into the final couple of corners. Gets it slowed down for the left, and you can see just how long that turn is and how patient you've got to be through there and also through this one. The final turn hugs the apex. And across the line comes Connor in the Alfa Romeo, and it's P4 with a 1 minute 14.9. As we still wait for Evil Hunter and Forza Ferrari to set the laps. Forza Ferrari with 3 wins himself in ARL so far. Didn't have the best of races last time in Hungary, which allowed Decinio to close the gap in the World Championship. And Forza Ferrari hasn't actually managed 2 wins or 2 podiums in a row since the opening 2 races of the season in Brazil and Monaco. And Forza for the Alfa Romeo of Connor, who has just set a lap to go P4, has now spun the car around. And if he was aiming to go quicker on this lap, certainly won't be doing so now. There's Evil Hunter in the Racing Point. On track as well, we've got Bloxham, who's just had his lap invalidated, so he'll have to go round again to try and set another. Here comes the Racing Point then. And once again, around this final corner. 6 podiums for the Force India team before. And Evil Hunter is... I believe the lap was invalidated. So, yeah, he's... in fact, it was an outlap from the Racing Point. So he's got to come around again. I'm paying so much attention right now whilst I'm digging up stats. Do apologise. Decinio, he is on a flying lap at the moment. I can tell you that. In the Ferrari. Had briefly taken pole and will not be taking pole here. It doesn't look like, because he's just had his lap invalidated for running wide out of turn 4. As Connor and Rick have both retired from the session. Bloxham then in the McLaren hasn't had this lap invalidated so far, and it's a purple middle sector on the timing screens. A nice sweeping run through the penultimate corner. Up the hill now towards the final turn. Currently P7 in the McLaren. What's this going to be for Bloxham as he opens up the DRS? No, it's clearly not a great lap for him because he's backed out of it. And is going to have to settle, potentially for P7, unless Evil Hunter can go quicker in the Racing Point. Oh, yes, he can! 1 minute 14.3 from the Racing Point. Exceptional lap time from him. Now what about Forza Ferrari? The other driver yet to set a lap so far in qualifying. What a brilliant lap from Evil Hunter to surely snatch pole right at the end, unless Forza Ferrari has something to say about it. As across the line comes the Renault, and he goes second. 1 minute 14.6. Can't go ahead of Evil Hunter. And the Racing Point, with an extraordinary lap time at the end, is going to have pole. Bloxham isn't on a quick run. And that's going to mean that a Racing Point has taken an exceptional pole position here in Budapest. It looked for all the while as though Laggins was going to have the fastest lap. He was going to have the best seat in the house for qualifying. But it's Evil Hunter, after an amazing lap right at the end of the session, who's going to be starting from pole position. In the end, Desinho, who was sitting on pole for a while, has ended up down in P5 in the Ferrari. That's how close it all was. And after such a close session, pole position decided by nearly 0.3 of a second. Evil Hunter waited a while, didn't he, for that lap time? And, well, he certainly delivered at the very end of the session. And he would be looking to take the 17th win from pole here at the Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix. But with how competitive qualifying was, you would not entirely hedge your bets on P1 or P2 taking the win. Laggins, Rick, Desinho all look very, very competitive indeed. It could be a five-way fight for the win. Over the 35 laps that we have ahead of us in this Hungarian Grand Prix. $153-kilometre race distance here, with the 50% Grand Prix, and of course we'll wait to see if weather might play a part in the action. But what an end to qualifying. Laggins looked as though he had pole. Desinho at one point looked as though he had pole, but Evil Hunter spectacularly takes pole position. And if Desinho is going to take his second consecutive win, he'll need a bit of a performance, won't he, from P5 on the grid. And 2 consecutive wins here at Hungary is actually quite difficult to come by as well. Lewis Hamilton became the first driver to do that last year. He's now won 3 in a row here in Hungary, and he was also the last driver to achieve that back in 2012 and 2013 when he won with McLaren and Mercedes. This Hungarian track then is, well, it's not normally one to lend itself to racing, but it certainly is one that's lent itself to a brilliant qualifying run and a fantastic, dramatic qualifying session here in ARL. It's Evil Hunter then who takes pole position for Racing Point. Forza Ferrari second in the Renault. It's Laggins in third for Williams. Rick takes fourth for Renault. Desinho fifth in the Ferrari. Connor in sixth for Alfa Romeo. Night Shadow takes seventh in the second Ferrari. Liverpool Fan in eighth for Mercedes. Bloxham in ninth place, and rounding out the top 10 is Super Gabu. And again, the gaps at the bottom of the top 10 as well, looking pretty tight there as well. So it's pretty close everywhere. We're set to see some very, very enticing racing indeed. over the next 35 laps here in Hungary. The Hungaroring, and it is, look at this, a rainy session here in Hungary, and that is going to make things very, very interesting indeed. Well, the Hungaroring is actually the first ever Formula One racetrack to continuously stage a World Championship event since the Iron Curtain was raised, as it started in 1986. It's not the only racing. Racing actually has been pretty big in Hungary for many, many years. Started in the 1930s here at Neplej Park. The 1936 Budapest Grand Prix was contested. Of course, that was before the World Championship became a feature, and it was just racing for fun, essentially. Tazio Nuvolari won in the Alpha Tauri in the 36 race. After the Second World War, it actually moved to Ferenc Park. Now it's a Hungaroring. Now we're ready to go at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and it's underway. And it's a pretty good start from Evil Hunter. Really, it's a good start from Forza Ferrari. Got a fantastic second phase of the start. Into turn one he goes. Now here comes Rick in the Renault and Dacino down the inside in the Ferrari. And round the outside going the Williams of... who's on the Williams? It's Laggins going in the Williams round the outside. And after a good start initially, it is Evil Hunter who's being passed by Dacino around the outside. Virtual safety car deployed because we've had some drama at the back. And it's the Haas of Joy who's been disqualified early on. Exactly what happened to that car, I'm not entirely sure. But already some drama. So, well, Evil Hunter, who looked as though he had actually got a pretty good start to the race initially off the line, just seemed to struggle as the car started to pull away. Forza Ferrari got the lead. Rick got down the inside. And Laggins was trying to take advantage around the Williams, couldn't quite do so. Back up then to Green Flag Racing here in Hungary. Forza Ferrari with a fantastic start, trying to take his fourth win of the season so far. Ahead of Rick, ahead of Dacino. Evil Hunter's being pursued by Laggins, you can see, but Laggins not quite going for the move just yet. Of course, as he does so, he'll probably end up going into the back of the Ferrari of Dacino. And they're all concertinaing up as they go into towards the final couple of corners of the first lap. Just all about skill and feel in the wet, as these drivers can tell you much better than I can. Forza Ferrari leads us then on to the second lap of the Hungarian Grand Prix. There's Rick behind him, and look at Dacino getting close to the Renault. Evil Hunter's falling into the clutches of Laggins. Oh, and it's a little bit of a fishtail exit for Rick, who could be vulnerable to Dacino, but no, Dacino not quite close enough yet in the Ferrari for a move. And everybody just feeling their way around the circuit and trying to get as good a purchase on the racetrack as they possibly can in these very tricky conditions. Forza then just over half a second ahead of his teammate Rick, who was not leaving alone, is he? Rick actually with a really good first sector, and he's right behind his teammate. You can see how close he is, and we've had a spinner at the back, which I believe is Wizard. Yeah, it is Wizard, because he's just retired from the session. So that's him out of the Grand Prix, as Evil Hunter having a look at getting past Dacino, and he might still have a look. Dacino, no, not quite close enough to the Renault just yet, but look at Evil Hunter potentially trying to go around the outside. Doesn't quite go for it yet on the Ferrari. Laggins as well, lurking behind them. Oh, and sliding into the wall is Rick, and Rick's now fallen behind Dacino as a result. And now he's going to be passed by Evil Hunter, is he? Laggins in there as well. Evil Hunter tries to go round the outside. That could compromise his run on the exit, as Oh, Laggins looks to get involved, and Evil Hunter, and look at Laggins down the inside. Oh, very nearly hits it. Could have been a nasty incident there between those two, but Laggins just about keeps his car under control and doesn't take out the Renault in front. But Rick, well, one mistake in the wet can cost you dearly, and it's just been proven there. There's Decenio now pursuing the race leader. In towards the chicane they go, and well, leading the pack in the wet, clearly a little bit more difficult than chasing in the wet, as we can see here. Forza really being pushed hard by Decenio. Oh, and slightly wide. That could give Decenio a chance. No, not quite just yet, although he's going to have a look at the inside. Not quite close enough to the Renault for a move just yet. As Evil Hunter, who has taken full advantage of that Rick mistake, looks to take advantage of these two leaders battling as well. Decenio's down the inside to the final corner. It was a clumsy move, but he's managed to avoid contact, and Evil Hunter's gone out wide, and Decenio now is going for the lead on the run down towards turn one. And will Forza have to go defensive? Decenio's going to go to the inside. No, not quite. Forza does not go defensive. Laggins having a look behind as well at Rick, and this gets very close. Laggins down the other side, pushes Rick ever so slightly out wide. And look at Decenio as well, challenging for the lead. Laggins has got ahead of the Renault. Has Decenio past the other Renault? He's trying to go right the way around the outside of turn two into three. Gets the move done brilliantly on the Renault. Fantastic move from Decenio to take the lead of the Hungarian Grand Prix, but he's gone wide at turn four. Rick's got a penalty, I think, for doing roughly the same thing, but Decenio holds on to the lead in Hungary. Forza Ferrari passed by, well, it has to be said, a fantastic move from the Ferrari behind him. Meanwhile, the other Ferrari of Night Shadow's been battling hard with the Alfa Romeo of Connor, and there they are with Liverpool fan just behind them in 8th place at the moment. Laggins now. Oh, it's a spin for the Renault, and it's Forza Ferrari who's gone off. Oh, we've had one Ferrari spinning, and it is the other one who has fallen victim to the wet conditions. He's damaged his front wing as a result. He's now being passed by Night Shadow, who goes round the outside. It couldn't have been, well, a worse few laps for Forza Ferrari, having taken the lead early doors. And it's both Renaults now who have lost the back end and spun the car around. Meanwhile, back out on track, here comes Laggins with the run on Evil Hunter. Knows he has to get past that racing point very quickly indeed if he wants to embark on catching up to Decenio. Meanwhile, behind, Roberto Santos been battling. Ribas is just behind him in the Mercedes, and Shadow Moody in the second Williams, just behind the second Mercedes, all outside of the points paying positions at the moment. And then Jack is not too far behind Bloxham, as we can see, as he chases the McLaren up into turn four. But a really dramatic start here in Hungary. Both the Renaults struggling to keep their cars on the racetrack. And you can see the Alfa Romeo fighting the car as Shadow Moody and Jazzy, because so I said Jazzy, I think, has made a mistake because he's gone down to P14 in the McLaren. So, oh, and he goes for a little bit of a slide again, does the McLaren. So, really struggling to find grip on this circuit, which isn't too much of a surprise. It is. We have got very wet conditions, and once again just running ever so slightly wide in the McLaren. Meanwhile, Night Shadow, look at that, challenging Rick, and he's trying to go down the inside of the Renault. Rick's going to come into the pits. Night Shadow carries on, and, well, Night Shadow's been held up slightly by the Renault coming into the pits. Liverpool fans now going to have the chance to try and get past him. We've got Connor as well, getting pretty close, I think, behind with Super Gabu. There they are, the Alfa Romeo just in front of the Alpha Tauri, down towards turn one. Then Bloxham and Jack following them through. So both the Renaults pitting, and actually it's onto the intermediate tyres for Rick. So that's quite the gamble for him. Will it pay off? Hasn't got dry enough yet for the Inters. Only really the drivers will know. Position changes all over the place as Bloxham has gotten ahead of Jack, meanwhile, for 8th position in Hungary. As Liverpool fan continues to chase down the Ferrari of Night Shadow. Slightly wide goes Night Shadow. That'll just give Liverpool fan the chance, and behind them as well. Connor Nibb has just gone wide at the chicane. Keeps the position for now from Super Gabu. And Bloxham now was caught right up to these two, as you can see. And Jack is still right behind. Oh, no, it's Connor off. Connor's gone off in the Alfa Romeo. He's lost the back end, spun in towards the wall. Has he kept his front wing intact? I'm not entirely sure. I think he has. Yeah, he's still got his front wing on the car, but only just after that. Here comes Bloxham. He's just passed one AlphaTauri. He's now trying to pass the other one. And they're all just skating around the circuit as Bloxham looks to get more traction than the AlphaTauri in front. Meanwhile, Designo's come into the pits for Ferrari, and then Bloxham actually is in danger of being passed now by Jack on the run down towards turn 1. Here's the AlphaTauri. Is he going to go down the inside of the McLaren? Yes, he is, but he just hasn't quite got the room in front to actually go for the move. So he just had to back out of it. There is Designo back out onto the circuit on the Inters, and he'll just have to be very cautious as he looks to find grip on the Inters from the wets. And clearly quite a few drivers, including Laggins, Roberto Santo, Connor's come into the pits for Inters, Rick and Jazzy all in for intermediate tyres. And it seems to be the way to go then, because they're all staying on the track as it stands. Meanwhile, Bloxham still battling away with both the AlphaTauris. ASMD has picked up a penalty. He's all the way down in 18th place anyway in the Red Bull. It's a really tight battle this between these three cars. You can see Designo in the Ferrari is also just catching up to these guys as they battle away. One of these three in the points at the moment. We'll see how that pans out after the pit stops, because the Inter runners, who are clearly going very quickly, are going to be gaining so much time on all three of these cars now. As into the pits comes the AlphaTauri of Gabu. That releases Bloxham. And Jack has continued, and Designo's going to have the run on him. And here comes Designo side by side now with the AlphaTauri. That's some pretty good straight line speed, isn't it, down the home straight for the AlphaTauri car. Designo has to stay behind for the time being. He'll be fairly uncomfortable with that, because Laggins is now right behind him in the Williams. As more and more drive. Oh, and into the wall goes Bloxham. He's spun out of turn 1. He's hit the barrier. He's lost his front wing. That's a long way back to the pits from there as well to get that repaired. That's a very costly error. That's allowed Evil Hunter to get back ahead as well. So that releases that burden of having to pass the McLaren. Laggins, you can see, very, very close indeed to Designo. These two right behind Jack in the second AlphaTauri, who of course hasn't been able to pit just yet because he had his teammate come into the pits and he would have had to double stack. But look how close this is between all three of these cars. Designo practically pushing the AlphaTauri round the circuit. Slightly wide goes Jack, but it's not really a passing opportunity there. And this is allowing Evil Hunter to catch up to these guys as well. Here comes Designo. He's side by side now with Jack, and he's taken the lead from Jack. And this is also going to allow Laggins to get through on the exit. He's side by side, tries to go round the outside of the AlphaTauri. Can he hang it out the long way round? Yes, he can. Brilliant move. Jack now comes into the pits. That releases Evil Hunter, who very conveniently has been allowed to catch right back up to the Williams as a result of the battling going on in front. And it's now the top three separated by just over, or nearly I should say, 2 seconds. A Liverpool fan who also made the gamble quite early to come into the pits for Inters has, as a result, been boosted up to P4 in the Mercedes. Having made it into Q3, now up to 4th and potentially in a position to take advantage of mistakes ahead of him and get himself onto the podium on lap 9. of this Hungarian Grand Prix. All the drivers running at the moment are now on the intermediate tyre. Bloxham has now made it back round to the pits and gone on to the inters and ended up in P12 as a result, having been running in the points. Of course, the mistake just on the last lap has cost him. Rick with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix in the Renault. His error earlier has put him down to P15. Forza Ferrari's teammate is ahead of him in 14th, just behind Shadow Moody in the Williams. As you can see, the Renault there fighting the back end in towards turn 4 they go. Now through 5, you can see just how much more confidence and grip that Forza has through this first sector. Big Ben has picked up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. Forza will want to get this move done quickly before Rick catches up to him, and it's the fastest lap for Decino, 1:29.9 from the Ferrari. Evil Hunter just under a second behind that Williams car, and there are those two going down towards turn 2, and Decino now will try and use this chance to break away from this pair and boost himself to his 3rd win of the season. Meanwhile, Super Gabu is still chasing after Connor. Connor, of course, he made that error earlier, just spinning off towards the barrier. Didn't pick up any front wing damage though as a result, and so it didn't cost him an unbelievable amount of time. Roberto Santo is just ahead of these two in the Haas. Connor, a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits at turn 4. And there is Roberto Santo in the Haas, who is 8 seconds behind Night Shadow in the Ferrari in front of him. And you can see how quickly Connor's gaining on the Haas. Looking to make quick work of the fellow Ferrari power car in front of him. And he knows he has to, because Super Gabu is going to be on the back of these two before too long. With Jack also not a million miles behind. Laggins now really close to, in fact, he's been passed by Evil Hunter, so Evil Hunter has now gotten back ahead of Laggins. He caught up as they were trying to get past the traffic, and he's now got past the Williams. And can he set after the Ferrari and pass the Ferrari of Decino to take the lead of this race? Connor, meanwhile, going side by side with Roberto Santo into turn 1. Not quite able to make the move, stick around the outside. Can he get a good exit out of turn 1? Well, he can, but it's not good enough for the move in towards turn 2. Roberto Santo holding on to 6th place at the moment. This will just allow Liverpool fan and Night Shadow to escape from this pair behind. Super Gabu and Jack, as a result of all this, really catching up to both of these two. In towards this middle sector they go. There are the two Alpha Tauris who I think will be battling each other before long, actually, as well as going on recover from the issues that he's had in this Grand Prix. Just behind Shadow Moody, 4 past the Ferrari, and he's now chasing after Bloxham in the McLaren. Speaking of whom, up a 3-second time penalty. Through towards the final sector they go. And behind them is Red knocked out in the second qualifying session, down in P16 now in the race. And it's a good run, isn't it, from Rick? He's got so much more pace than Shadow Moody in the Williams in front of him. As we follow these two down towards turn 1. And it's a good enough run here from Rick as he looks to pass Shadow Moody. No, not quite going to happen. Meanwhile, Forza Ferrari and blocks them going side by side on the run down towards turn 2. Forza gets in front. Now has Rivas up next to try and pass. Jack's picked up a penalty in the Alpha Tauri. Oh, very close there for Forza Ferrari, sticking his nose on the inside, trying to get past Ribas. Eager to get the job done, and does get the job done. It's a good pass, really aggressive driving from Forza, and it pays off as he gets up to P11. And now has 6.5 seconds to make up to get to the next car. And Ribas blocks him now side by side, blocks him getting ahead of the Mercedes, so I think it's had to cut across the chicane, as I believe has Shadow Moody just there, who is only just now in front of Jay in the Red Bull. So the two Renaults coming back through the field has really put a lot of these well, it's put a cat amongst the pigeons in the midfield fight. Shadow does really well to pick up the back end. Very nearly lost it mid corner, but holds on to it. And Rick now just over a second behind Ribas. If he can get past him nice and quickly, then it's not too much further to go to catch up to Bloxham, as Forza looks to make those inroads on the P10 driver, which is Jazzy in the McLaren. Meanwhile, there is Night Shadow looking to chase down Liverpool Fan. So he's done well to get that gap down in the Ferrari. Can he now get past the Mercedes? And some yellow flags somewhere. Roberto Santo, meanwhile, has, I think he's gone off. Yeah, he has gone off because he's just been passed by Connor, Gabu and Jack. So he's lost 3 positions, I think, in one mistake there has Roberto Santo. Meanwhile, behind, Jay Hartnell has gotten ahead of Shadow Moody. There they are. So the Red Bull in front. Oh, and Rick's gone off. Rick has gone off in the Renault. So, once again, for the second time in this Grand Prix, Rick has made a mistake. And he's lost his front wing this time as a result. And just as he looked as though he was making his way back up the field after the mistake earlier on, he's now made another error, and that's pushed him down to P16. Big Ben also catching him in the racing point. Oh, so frustrating for Rick. Just looked as though he was really finding his feet, finding his rhythm again. But he's put himself in the wall somewhere. Meanwhile, Night Shadow still chasing after the Mercedes of Liverpool Fan. Laggins just under a second behind Evil Hunter. That gap is very slowly increasing between those two. Evil Hunter, yeah, he's not really making all that many gains on Dacinio out front. Still 3 seconds between those two drivers. I'm sure Dacinio will be looking back and probably hoping that those two start battling before too long. And Rick has actually stayed out on a damaged front wing, which is interesting. I'm not too sure why he's done that. Big Ben now goes to the outside and gets past him on the way up towards turn 4. That pushes Rick now down to P17. And a damaged front wing in wet conditions is a brave move from Rick, and it's obviously not getting him anything because he's now all the way down in P17 and second last of the current runners, with Wizard and Joy both out of this Grand Prix. Jay, having got past Shadow Moody, is now just behind the Mercedes of Ribas. Oh, Ribas loses the back end, goes on the grass. Jay's got a chance to around the outside and makes absolutely no mistake. Gets ahead of the Mercedes. And as I say, one mistake in the wet can be so costly indeed. And Jay now up to P13. 5 seconds behind Bloxham. Forza Ferrari's done really well to make up the ground to Jazzy. Just over a second now behind the McLaren. And it's then, after that, 7 seconds up to Roberto Santo, whose error just earlier has cost him positions to Connor, Super Gabu and Jack. But positions not really changing at all between those three drivers. And Rick has now come into the pits for a new front wing. I'm actually starting to wonder if Rick might have maybe tried to come into the pits and ended up overshooting the pit lane because of a damaged front wing. Who knows? But anyway. Big Ben is actually not far behind Shadow Moody, meanwhile. Battle between the two Mercedes-powered cars. And while one Racing Point is up in second place, the other Racing Point battling now for P15 as Big Ben exits turn 5 and just looked for a little move on the Williams. Not close enough yet into the chicane. The gap at the front increasing just a little bit. Decinio now just over 3 seconds ahead of Evil Hunter. And Big Ben he's getting a much better exit. He goes round the outside of the Williams, which is really clearly struggling quite a lot. Shadow Moody and Big Ben as a result is up to P15 in the Racing Point. Forza Ferrari's now got to within a second of the McLaren, and you can see it's drying up just a little bit more. The rain is easing off, but still very much intermediate tyre conditions here in Budapest. And once again, Forza Ferrari gaining every corner, every braking zone as he closes up to the McLaren. This is for the final points paying position, but after qualifying, both the Renaults would have expected a little more than that. And he gets a time penalty for the Ferrari for exceeding track limits, which won't do his mood any favours after what has been a tremendously difficult start for the Renault team to this Grand Prix. Jack, meanwhile, has got to within a second of his teammate as well. Super Gabu just ahead. Connor is just escaping from these two a little bit, so obviously he's not stuck behind Roberto Santo anymore, so that's just giving him the breathing space he needs from these two, who have been fairly close for a number of laps now, but haven't been giving us any will-to-will racing. Their pace has been pretty consistent, as has the pace of these two, Night Shadow and Liverpool Fan. The Mercedes still in front of the Ferrari. And there's yellow flags because there's a Williams off, which I believe is Shadow Moody. Yes, it is. Shadow Moody has spun off in the Williams, and ASMD has retired from the session to become the third non-finish of this race. And Forza Ferrari now going side by side with Bloxham, and they're side by side on the exit of turn 1. Bloxham gets back ahead of Forza on the run down towards turn 2. He'll defend the inside and he'll try and push the Ferrari all the way out, but Forza's having absolutely none of it and gets the inside for turn 3. Bloxham still tries to hang him on the outside, but spins, and it's Jazzy, rather, I should say, not Bloxham. There's Bloxham behind him. Jazzy does well to hold on to the McLaren, and Bloxham now, as a result, in the other McLaren, is going to be right behind his teammate Jazzy. So Forza, with another spectacular move, is ahead of not one but two McLarens. And it's the two McLarens now that are going to be battling before too long by the looks of it. Bloxham just behind Jazzy. And Forza Ferrari, despite their battling, has closed the gap ever more to Roberto Santo for P9. Just 5 seconds now separating those two. As we rejoin Night Shadow, looking to catch and pass Liverpool Fan. Through turn 3 they go. And of course, the drier it gets, the more the Inters are going to start to just struggle a little bit. It's a good run through turn 4 for Night Shadow, but of course it's difficult to really do anything with it. And blocks him now. Goes for a late move on his teammate Jazzy, and gets the move done on his teammate Jazzy, and goes up now into 12th place. And Jay will be looking at that pretty excitedly, because he's closing up to both of them, who are of course having quite a bit of a battle. Ribas is in P15 for Mercedes. He's been passed by the looks of it. Yeah, he has been passed by Big Ben. So Big Ben now, his progression continues up to P14. Ribas right behind him, though, in the Mercedes. These two at the moment not battling for any points, but in a wet race you just never know what's going to happen. Night Shadow still right behind Liverpool in this battle for 4th. Still just looking for some sort of way to get ahead of that Mercedes in front. Actually gaining quite a bit of time in the corners, but then just doesn't seem to have quite enough power. The straights just don't seem to be long enough for the Ferrari to pass the Mercedes. Behind them as well in the battle for 12th, then we've got Jay and Jazzy both into the pits. So is this for another set of inters then, I wonder? Or are they taking the gamble and going for slicks? It looks as though it is slicks. Yeah, medium tyres on both those cars. So Big Ben's also come in, as has Rivas and Shadow Moody. So quite a few drivers now have decided, well, you know what, it's dry enough now on the track, we're going to go for a set of slick tyres. But that's going to be a gamble. The track will still be quite greasy and quite slippery. Oh, and Desinio's come in and picked up a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So he'll need a very, very good run indeed in the final part of this Grand Prix to win this race, because he has to not only see it home to the finish, but he's also got to mitigate the penalty that he's just had. And Laggins in the pits. He's just had to wait for his teammate Shadow Moody to head out of the pit box. That'll be frustrating for him as he goes away on the medium tyres as well. Night Shadow has continued, interestingly, for Ferrari. Liverpool fan has come into the pits for mediums. Connor's in as well. So, I think that's a bit of a mistake, surely, for Night Shadow. DRS has been enabled, which is normally that you have to come in. What this will do is it will really slow up Night Shadow. Evil Hunter and Laggins. And Laggins and Evil Hunter will be... Well, there is Laggins behind. Evil Hunter there. Excuse me, so it was Shadow Moody who was, the lapped Williams. Laggins actually has fallen a long way behind Evil Hunter because of having to double stack in the pits. And what this is doing, as I mentioned, is just allowing Desinio to get further ahead. Maybe that was the plan from Ferrari, to keep Night Shadow out there, just to allow Evil Hunter to have to lose a bit of time getting past the Ferrari. Well, it has worked, because there is now just a 5-second gap between them. Night Shadow really struggling. You can see Shadow Moody in Williams is unlapping himself from Ferrari as Night Shadow does not bring it into the pits, but he'll lose so much time now. I was behind, as will Jack, who's being passed by Liverpool fan, because again he's on the inters and on the wrong tyre essentially, which is just costing him so much time over the course of this lap, and will spit him out quite a way down the order. Out of the pits then comes Night Shadow. Well, actually, it's not cost him as much time as I thought, because he might still be in front of the Liverpool fan. This will be very, very close between these fans on the way down to turn 1. Stays ahead of the Ferrari as Jay gets ahead of Bloxham. So Jay is in the pits. Jazzy has jumped his teammate, so Jazzy's gone back up into P9. Well, Connor and Gabu have been going side by side. There they are, and Connor gets ahead of Gabu in the Alfa Romeo. Gabu, who was chasing actually Connor in the last stint. Now, and Connor able to hold on to P6. Meanwhile, behind, Forza has now got ahead of Bloxham. And, what's happened to Bloxham? He's gone off. Bloxham's gone off in the McLaren. He's also been passed by Big Ben. So, and Roberto Santa, when the Haas is not far behind either. In P14 on the hard tyres, interestingly. I would have thought the mediums actually should have enough to make it to the end of the Grand Prix. There's Jay again, looking to pass Jazzy. And just in front of them is Jack, and of course Forza still making his way back up the field, looking to get towards the points positions. And of course, it's a spin for the other McLaren. Jazzy's round as well. So we had Bloxham go round earlier. Jazzy has also gone off in the second, or in the first McLaren now. It's drama for both of the McLarens. The Woking-based team having an absolute nightmare at the moment. haven't taken a win here since 2012 and won't be doing so just at the moment. Here comes Night Shadow, meanwhile, still trying to pass Liverpool Fan. And these two now are actually lapping Rick. It's a purple first sector for Night Shadow on this lap. And, of course, DRS enabled now, so being within a second puts you in a much more dangerous position now than it did before, as Jack might just be about to exemplify. He's just been passed by Forza, but he's not going to be able to get back into it, and in fact goes under the grass. So not only could he not get back ahead, he's also outrun himself through turn 2, and Forza then does have the position, and up into P9 for him. And just has a couple of seconds to make up now to catch up to Jay, and then it's a pretty big gap back up to Super Gabu in the Alpha Tauri. What can Night Shadow do then? Couldn't get ahead in the wet conditions. Now has DRS in the Mercedes. You can see how much he's gaining on the car in front down towards turn 1, but isn't close enough just yet for a move on the Mercedes car. Well, he might be stuck behind him for the whole race. You never know. Meanwhile, there's Roberto Santo being chased down by Ribas. Those two have Shadow Moody behind them, although I believe that is Laggins. Yeah, Laggins is coming through to lap these two. Shadow Moody is about 4 seconds behind them. Rick is 18 seconds behind Shadow, last of the current runners, as Ribas gets out of the way to allow the Williams through. Here is Night Shadow once again. And he's been staring at the back of that Mercedes for a very long time, plotting just how to get past him. And right now, can't seem to find a way through. Forza has now caught up to Jay, meanwhile, in the battle for 8th place. These two were, well, not so much Jay, but Forza was battling for the win early doors, but a couple of mistakes from him and his teammate Rick have put them out of contention for the win. Forza will at least probably be able to bring home some points in this race. How many points will it be, though? Well, looks as though he is about to pass Jay. And Jay's gone for a slightly more sweeping line through the final corner. Here comes Forza. DRS open. Has he got enough here to get past the Red Bull? He's closing massively down the home straight in towards turn 1. Goes for the late move down the inside and outruns himself slightly. Jay cuts back underneath, gets ahead of him. And once again, though, Forza will have DRS. Once again goes to the inside, and this time down the inside line and stays ahead of the Red Bull. And that's a good move. Into 8th position. Laggins with the fastest lap of the race, meanwhile. Took a couple of cracks at it, but eventually he gets himself in front. Now here comes Big Ben. Oh, having a little look at passing Jack, but turn 4, not usually an overtaking opportunity. And Big Ben decided that discretion was the better part of valour, but now he's down the inside into the chicane. There's a bit of contact, nearly spins the car. And Jack manages to stay ahead for now. But these two getting really racy, and Ben doesn't seem to care which part of the track it is. He wants to get past his Alfa Romeo and take the final points paying position. It's been a really good recovery actually back from towards the back of the field from Big Ben. And meanwhile, Night Shadow is passing Liverpool Fan, and has he got him? Looks as though he has. Yes, he has. And Night Shadow finally gets ahead of the Mercedes. The Ferrari's been stuck behind that car for a very long time indeed, but now has the move done. And a purple first sector to boot, but these two have lost so much time now to Laggins in front. Laggins actually catching up slightly to Evil Hunter, who is catching the Senior just a little, not too much. That gap staying pretty consistent. Here comes Big Ben out of turn 1 towards 2. Not quite close enough at the moment to go for the move on Jack, and has to sit in P11 for the time being. Meanwhile, Ribas is chasing down Roberto Santo for P14. Mercedes against Haas at the moment. I'll say though, these two not fighting for any points at the moment, just for a bit of fun. And Roberto Santo was running up in the points, but that mistake earlier, which put him behind Connor and both the AlphaTauris, has eventually meant that through the pit stop phase, he's lost out a few more positions and ended up down in P14 and being pressured massively by the Mercedes. Bloxham, after his error, has just about caught up to these two, actually. So Big Ben, if he wants to secure a points finish, wants to get ahead of Jack in front as quickly as possible. Otherwise, he's going to be under pressure from not one, but I would suggest two McLarens, because Bloxham and Jazzy are both catching up pretty quickly. Big Ben, pretty good run through the final corner. Is it going to be enough? Surely it will. He's got the slipstream, he's got DRS as well. Will Jack go defensive? Not really. Big Ben has the inside to go for. Can he brake later? Oh, he cuts the curb. He actually braked a little bit too early, I would say, in the racing point, and that was a really golden opportunity that goes begging there for Big Ben. He had the move there on a plate, and he just couldn't quite pull it off. Jack kept his car in fairness right in the middle of the road. Didn't really give Big Ben many angles to work with, but the racing point did have a real chance. Does have a chance now. Tries to go down the inside. That's a dangerous move. Bounces over the curb. Now wheel to wheel again in towards the chicane. Can he get the move done this time on the AlphaTauri? Once again there's contact, and this time it allows Bloxham to get ahead in the McLaren. And it was one audacious attempt too many from the racing point. Look at Jazzy as well now, and the other McLaren getting really close to the racing point. Ribas has now gotten ahead of Roberto Santo, and look at this, this is close, and down the inside goes Bloxham on Jack. Oh, and he nearly spins, and that allows Big Ben to get back past him. And can the McLaren brake later on the outside? Oh, he goes right onto the curb. Jack comes into the pits in the AlphaTauri meanwhile. I'm surprised he couldn't make those times. Look at Jazzy. Jazzy now will take advantage of his teammate battling, will he? No, not quite, not just yet. And it's going to be a DRS train down towards turn one. And here comes Bloxham. Can he get past the racing point of Big Ben? Yes, he can, into turn one. Oh, but Big Ben comes back at him, pushes the McLaren right off the track. And Bloxham still manages to complete the move. And that was pretty dicey between those two. And Big Ben now runs wide, and Jazzy tries to go right the way around the outside of him. Can he now hold the inside for turn four? Yes, he can. And Jay's lost the place, has to concede it. And in trying to gain one place on Jack, he's ended up losing 2 places to the McLarens. Jack came into the pits anyway. And Big Ben now down in P12. We've got one McLaren up into the points to Bloxham. And Jazzy now, I'm sure, will be quite interested in taking that point off him. And very wide goes Big Ben in the racing points. He's got Desinio coming up to lap him before too long in the Ferrari. But some really tight racing there between 3 drivers, and the McLarens are both looking to recover from recent mistakes. And Bloxham's recovered up to the points in what has been a very entertaining Grand Prix indeed. Action all over the places. Wide again goes the racing point, and he'll now be lapped by the Ferrari of Desinio, who will not be too happy at this actually, because look at Evil Hunter. He's not a million miles away from catching the Mercedes. Shadow Moody has a penalty in the Williams. Laggins is catching ever closer, is getting ever closer, I should say, to the back of Evil Hunter. And, well, if these gaps carry on falling the way they are, then we could be in for a very exciting end indeed. Roberto Santo is out of the session in the Haas. And, well, there's Shadow Moody in the Williams. He's been picking up penalties, and unfortunately for him, it looks as though, he's about to be lapped as well by in fact, he's about to be passed, I should say, by a runner, or is he going to be lapped? Looks as though he is actually about to be lapped by Forza. Forza, who's up in P8 at the moment and still trying to catch Super Gabu. He's getting that gap down, 13.5 seconds between those two. Evil Hunter has a penalty for multiple warnings, and that just gives Desinio the breathing space he needs to stay ahead of him come the end of this Grand Prix. And, well, depending on how many penalties Laggins has, if any, he could end up winning this Grand Prix, actually. I'm not sure if he's picked up as many penalties as Desinio and Evil Hunter have, for example. As Jay comes into the pits for Red Bull. So clearly some of the medium runners deciding that they just can't make those tyres go to the end of the Grand Prix, and Jay, as a result, has come into the pits. He's now down in P11 on the soft tyres to the end of the Grand Prix. Will he be able to catch Jazzy for the final point? Big Ben pits as well for Racing Point, and he's also on to a set of softs to take him through to the end. He won't be scoring any points, unfortunately. It would have been a great result for him, but it was just snatched away from him by the two McLarens. Meanwhile, there's Jack now behind Ribas in this battle for 12th position in the Grand Prix. Evil Hunter continues to get that gap down out front. Just under 2 seconds separating Desinio and Evil Hunter in the Ferrari and the Racing Point. And Laggins not far behind either. And as I say, depending on the penalties for the top three, you never know. Laggins could finish third and still win the Grand Prix. And it's just occurred to me that I've been calling Laggins this whole time. Really, I'm sorry. Laganis will try and, yeah, potentially might be able to take advantage of penalties and win the Grand Prix. Lagani, I can't believe I've done that. Laganis, yeah. He might even get them on track, actually. As now here comes Jack, side by side with the Mercedes. And Ribas defends the inside in the final corner, but they're still side by side. Ribas leaves the AlphaTauri just enough room. It's now a drag race between them on the way down towards turn one. Ribas stays ahead for now and has the move, or has the position kept and defended successfully for now from the AlphaTauri. But it's a good exit from Jack on the run down towards turn two. But Ribas has the move, he has the position, although Jack might try and go right the way around the outside of turn two and towards turn three, but no, it's just too much to ask to go around there. Laganis, though, yeah, is now just under 2 seconds behind. His progress has been halted slightly, Laganis, by, yeah, since he's actually managed to get within 2 seconds, he's kind of hit a brick wall, pace-wise, and in terms of catching these two, he's now fallen just over 2 seconds behind Evil Hunter. I think the traffic actually played its part as well in helping him to catch up to the Racing Point. And look at this now, it's just over a second between Evil Hunter in second and Desinio in first. And I wonder if these two actually are equal on penalties. I think they just might be. And Evil Hunter's doing his best to catch up. Laganis has now managed to get himself just under 2 seconds behind again. Oh, Forza's out. Forza Ferrari is out of the Grand Prix. So, well, he was running back up in the points-paying positions before, and now he's crashed out of this Grand Prix. Oh, it's a nightmare for him on the exit of turn two, which Ribas and Jack are just coming through now. Oh, that's a shame for Renault, and it doesn't look as though either of their cars are going to be scoring points. Rick is now up to P13 as a result, but yeah, I don't think he'll be able to do enough. Oh, it's a spin for Ribas, who just catches the inside curb, and that spins him round and allows Jack to go through up into P11. Rick is now one position closer to the front in the Renault, and Ribas has rejoined behind Big Ben, and he gets lapped as well by his teammate Liverpool fan, who was in 5th place. And out front, meanwhile, Evil Hunter very close indeed to the senior and towards turn one, and now in towards the final few laps of this Grand Prix. It's going to be a grandstand finish for the win between Desinio and Evil Hunter. Racing Point versus Ferrari. A Racing Point team who have never taken a victory in Formula 1, but 6 podiums. None of them have come here in Hungary. 2 of them in Baku with Sergio Perez. Perez also took a podium in Monaco in 2016 as well. And can Desinio hold his nerve for the final couple of laps and stay ahead of Evil Hunter? Just under half a second between them now, and it is going to be a really, really tight finish. Both on the medium tyres, both the same age tyres as well. It's a straight out fight between 2 drivers who have been uber consistent out front today. Evil Hunter started this race on pole position, got a pretty good getaway, but ended up falling down the order on the way down towards turn 1. Laganis now has fallen. Yeah, he's continuing to fall behind. And look at the seat has gone slightly wide in the final corner. This is going to be a chance for Evil Hunter. He's right behind the Ferrari. Desinio goes defensive, tries to weave to break the slipstream. It's not going to matter. Evil Hunter's gone to the inside and takes the lead of the Hungarian Grand Prix in towards turn 1. Desinio will try and fight it around the outside, but Evil Hunter has the move done. Has DRS as well. And he has P1 in Budapest. And it was a splendid run through the final corner. But the question is going to be, what about penalties? And who has more penalties? And Evil Hunter, I think, will be aware of that and will probably be trying to eke out the advantage over the Ferrari behind. Jazzy, meanwhile, is right behind his teammate, blocks him there, currently being passed by Laganis in the Williams. I think that's probably what's brought the McLarens so close. They've ended up converging on each other because Laganis has been lapping both of them. Bloxham still hasn't gotten out of the way yet. Of course, he's probably quite wary of slowing down because he doesn't want his teammate Jazzy to get too close. But he's also probably quite aware that Laganis can just go through him, which he's trying to do now. But, well, Bloxham certainly hasn't done the Williams any favours, has to be said. As Laganis was trying to pass him. And Jazzy, well, he's still right behind him, isn't it? It's going to be very close now between the two McLarens. Jazzy with DRS. Bloxham's got DRS as well, though, on the Williams in front. And very nearly unlapped himself, actually, on the way down towards turn 1. And that slipstream train was what allowed Bloxham to just stay ahead of his teammate for the time being. Meanwhile, Rick is trying to continue his pursuit of a points finish here in Hungary. Of course, we never know if penalties might play a part in giving him a point, which is why he's just going to try and race as hard as he possibly can. And down towards turn 1 they go, and Rick takes P11 away from Jack and gets himself up to potentially within reach of a points finish, depending on any penalties, although he is some 23 seconds actually behind Bloxham now. And Bloxham, I think, has made a mistake. Yes, he has, because not only has Jazzy got past, but Jay's got ahead as well. So, that's another mistake from a McLaren, which will be very frustrating indeed. Evil Hunter now has a second advantage over Desinio. The sun starts to come out, and the sun rises on a new winner in the Optimal Racing League. Evil Hunter rounds the final corner and wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. Desinio finishes in second. Laganis, he gets second as a result of Desinio's penalties. So Laganis, who finished third on track, takes fourth as a result of penalties in front of him for Desinio. But Evil Hunter does hold on for the win. There is Night Shadow, past Liverpool fan, and ended up streaking clear of the Mercedes as well. And he will come round now the final two corners to take a fourth place finish in this Hungarian Grand Prix. As there is the Ferrari across the line now. Liverpool fan will follow him into P5. There's Connor in the Alfa Romeo to take P6. But it's a new winner in ARL. And it wasn't the fourth win of the season for Forza Ferrari. It wasn't the third win of the season for Desinio. Instead, it's Evil Hunter in the racing point. Took pole, lost the lead off the start, but didn't give up on it. The mistakes from the Renaults in front of him allowed him to catch up. And eventually, that was enough in the pit stops. And also, of course, got the win at the end. He would have got the win anyway if he hadn't passed Desinio, but it was the move down towards someone that ultimately got the win of the race for Evil Hunter. And he takes out maximum points from this Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix. And of course, this would mean that Racing Point would become the ninth constructor to win in Budapest. And in spectacular circumstances too. What a brilliant race. An exceptional drive from all of our top three over the course of the whole Grand Prix weekend. Laganis, Desinio and Evil Hunter all battling for pole position over the course of the Grand Prix. And it's Evil Hunter at the end of it all who comes out on top. He takes the win from Leganes in second, Desenio third, finished second on track, but the penalties cost him the win. Or cost him second place, I should say. Night Shadow fourth in the second for a Liverpool fan. Fifth for Mercedes. Connor in sixth for Alfa Romeo. Super Gabu finishes seventh. Jay in eighth. Jazzy ninth. Bloxham takes the final points of the race in 10th for McLaren. Jack finishes 11th. Rick in 12th for Renault, so in the end actually lost positions due to penalties instead of gaining them. Big Ben 13th for Racing Point, looked at one stage as though he might be on for a points finish. Remas 14th in the second Mercedes. Shadow Moody 15th. And then Forza Ferrari, Roberto Santo, ASMD, Wizard and Joy all out of the Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix. And Forza Ferrari's championship campaign very much hindered by a non-finish here in Hungary. But that's it for this evening's action in ARL. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next Sunday